And Chris Green, welcome to episode 35 of the Being There, Done That podcast. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, thank you. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. And this Sunday, have you had your morning coffee yet and gone your little walk over in Sydney?
Nah, I've gone as far as taking the dog out for a toilet, and I had a sleep in. I haven't had a sleep in for a while, so it got me pretty much crawling out of bed, to be honest.
Oh, nice. Well, over here in the west, it's bright and early, and lucky the sun's up. So you got me good time. And it's nice to get up early on a Sunday because then there's more time to do all the housework after. So it's lovely.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way.
So you were talking just before that you getting back into training. How's everything been going? You pull up any injuries? Have you had to recover from the big bash?
Touch wood, no injuries. I sort of had a week to 2 weeks, pretty slow going after the Big Bash finished, just because it actually ended up being quite a tough period at the back end in bubbles. I had to then isolate towards the back end of the tournament because I was a close contact because my partner got COVID. So it became quite a bit of a mental stress. I actually needed a little bit of a break, and the last 2 weeks jump back into training full time. And yeah, I'm playing some club cricket on weekends and staying ready should anything else come in this period. And no, loving it so far. Started a new training program as well, which is always fun. So no injuries, but just a bit sore.
Oh, nice. The body getting back used to I guess the weights and doing a bit more extra work, not just cricket, eh?
Yeah, exactly, and more running as well, which is
Oh,
is always tough.
yuck. Well, I have been I've been doing a bit of more running than what I've been doing over previous guess 3 months. Over the last 3 months, I've lifted up my running just because doing all my because I do a bit of fight training as well. So just gotta make sure that I stay on top of conditioning and because I'm a bit bigger guy. Well, I'm a small guy for my weight division. Let's just say that. So if I'm a bit more conditioned, a bit fitter, then I'll got a bit
Yeah.
more of an edge in that weight category. So, yeah. So let's go back to the beginning with you. You were not originally living over in Australia. You came over when you were 7 years old. Where'd you come over
Yeah.
from?
I was born and raised in South Africa, in
Ah,
Durban. So yeah, 2001 we came across, made the big leap. My mum and dad and my brother all came. Well, like we made, well, mum and dad rather. I was going to say we all made the decision. Mum's dad made the decision. We were living in Durban, and for dad's work, we was going to have to move to Joburg, and they weren't overly keen on raising my brother and I in Joburg based on opportunity, safety, a number of reasons. And both of them were professional tennis players that never got to Australia, unfortunately. Dad couldn't get a visa, and mum was meant to come to the Aussie Open but got injured. So they
wow.
came out here on a holiday to, I guess, think about their decision and enjoy and see Australia on the recommendation from my grandparents. And they got brought to Sydney. They landed in Sydney, brought to Manly day one, and fell in love with it. And here I am, 23 years later or 22 years later from that holiday they had, and I find myself living in Manly. So it's
Oh,
been a pretty special journey, and I'm grateful for the huge sacrifice they made because we have no family over here.
mm.
It was just the four of us. Mum's side's all in the UK, dad's side's all in South Africa. So both places are pretty far away
Yeah,
from our isolated, beautiful country we live in.
yeah. I can imagine that. Even back in your parents' day, there was no YouTube to look up and to see how to do it. You know.
Yeah, it was still the payphones and everything. So yeah, I think the internet was just slowly crawling through.
Mm. It's interesting, when I talk to people who've had parents who are like professional tennis players or professional sports players like yours are. Did they, when you were younger, kind of introduce you to sport, and did they kind of, you know, instill like a mindset that I don't know that kind of breeds or kind of comes through now that you're playing in a professional setting?
Um, I think look, both of them were, highly active. I pretty much learned to walk on a tennis court
Mm.
because that's what they were doing. Mum was coaching tennis, dad was working, but they were still playing um, at a high level, at as high level as they could, just because it's that competitive side that never dies in you. And for them, it was a great way to, have fun and keep fit. So dad was always, playing tennis, touch rugby. Mum was always on a tennis court, and both of them, going to gym. So my brother and I would either go to the creche or be watching them play tennis. So I think seeing that active environment, being involved and wanting to be involved, sitting on the sidelines is never fun anyway as a kid. So you want to always look to be involved. And that sort of bred my love for playing sport and wanting to be highly active, because it was what I was seeing all my upbringing. My mum and dad were doing it in front of me, and it was a natural progression. And then, you fast forward to actually playing sport. It was, I think I just get that competitive side from them, wanting to win, wanting to be the best. And that sort of came all the way through my sport and education life as well, just being highly competitive and a pest to all my friends, probably.
Yeah. So in saying that, so you obviously when you moved over here, you picked up all the sports you played. Like, did you try Aussie rules or what was that kind of like?
I did try Aussie rules. I was quite a tall, lean softy during school, I'd call myself. So I played soccer, tennis, and cricket. And then year six, it was at school, they allowed us to do like an AFL. They just grabbed people from PE that were, I guess, good in class or whatever, to play AFL for the school. And I found myself marking a girl who was a lot bigger than me, and I had to tackle her. And I tackled her, but I felt like I came off second best. And I
Oh
thought, you know
no.
what, that's enough. That's enough for me. And I love the game, but then yeah, the physicality of it wasn't in my bone structure as a youngster. But
Mm,
watching it now and seeing the fitness side of it, particularly when I was on contract at New South Wales, and we were used to train at the SCG. We're now out west in Homebush, but
oh,
we'd
yeah.
watch the Swans do a running session, and we'd sort of go over there a bit embarrassed to do ours that we thought was hard, and they'd probably do our session as a warm up.
Yeah, I do. So I work over here in Perth with the waffle side. So I don't know what that is. They call it the
Yeah,
NEFL over in the eastern states. So I work with a state club here, and just with all the conditioning and that sort of stuff, sometimes when I'm writing it out, I'm God, thank God I'm not doing this. And even and even sometimes the kind of the accumulation of all the training, the playing in the years that kind of adds onto the injuries, I guess mount so much that when you post AFL career, it's actually quite tough to kind of walk around because your ankles are all sore, your
yeah.
knees are sore. So it's quite tough.
That's crazy. Yeah, one of the we got chatting to them, the Swans, a couple of times, and heard about their sessions. They used to do like 100 hundreds on the
Mm,
minute, and then the other one was during the height of preseason, when they're all sort of, I guess, fighting fit. Is they wouldn't tell them exactly what they're doing, and if anyone asks how many more reps or how much
yeah.
longer we got to go, no matter where they are, they start again. So they could be going out to do 3 runs or 1,000 of them, but because they're so fit, they can condition themselves
Yeah.
and cruise through a few. And so they wouldn't tell them how many they're doing to make them go hard, which was an interesting one.
There's I actually was reading an article probably a while, well, maybe a couple months ago. Over the before the last Christmas training day they had got at Gold Coast, it was they grouped up. So I think it was groups of five. They had to do individual. So each one had to do 400-meter run on every 2 minutes or something. It was something like that. But they had to accumulate for 42 kilometers, so a marathon. So in that group, they had to run 42 Ks or a marathon length of 400-meter runs. I think it's how they said they took them almost 2.5 hours to do.
That's outrageous.
Oh god.
Good.
It's not something you wanna do you?
No,
But
that's why I'm glad I'm playing cricket.
you'd almost hope that when you get to train like, I don't think you even want to know you're doing that, so you much rather just
No,
roll up to training and get told. Because if you have to mentally prepare for it, I think it will break you, wouldn't it?
I wouldn't sleep well the night before.
No. Oh, wow. So you tried all different sports growing up. When was it was kind of time to choose one of those to kind of excel or to get into?
Yeah, soccer sort of dropped off in year eight, and it was always cricket and tennis. Oh, it was probably cricket and tennis from year five. Really, those were the two sports. I played tennis all year round, and then cricket in the summer.
Mm.
Um, and tennis was probably always my favorite until maybe year 9 or 10, where they started becoming equal favorites. And then
Okay.
year 12, I was writing my HSC and wrote my SATs to go to the college in America for tennis. And,
Oh, wow.
it was decision time, basically. What do you want to do? And I couldn't decide. I hated the thought of it. Had like that period off where I was writing exams. I just took off from both of them and would just, if I wanted to go do some activity as a break, I'd go play tennis or I'd go down to the cricket nets or whatever. I wasn't overly thinking about playing, training, anything. And in that time, I just think I started leaning towards the team aspect of playing cricket. So
Mm.
I decided to stay in Australia, um, go to university here, and pursue cricket. And I still carried on playing tennis properly in tournaments for another 2 years out of school until I was 20. And then from there, I guess from when I played my first professional cricket game, the tennis racket went on the hook.
Yeah. Is kind of the individual nature of tennis, because all the pressure kind of falls on you in your game, and even the mental side of tennis, the whole weight of it. Did that kind of make the choice easier to kind of go to a team sport where I guess it's not so much on the individual, but more of a team collective to work together to get a result?
Yeah, I think that's where it was. I'm drawn to. I think naturally the way I think about the game and how I enjoy interacting with others, working out in my head the whole team aspect of it. Group of people coming together for a common cause, and that was a big thing I was drawn to in uni and in work as well um, before I had to specialized in cricket. It was working with people in a team environment, and I love leading people as well from a captaincy point of view. And um, I think that was the whole thing that really made the decision for me. Is I enjoyed captaining teams as a youngster as well, and yeah, being in that whole team environment. And from the tennis side, it was awesome to work it out yourself, but it gets pretty lonely on the court,
Mm.
and you start having some interesting conversations in your head throughout a match as well, which I think have helped my cricket. Certainly, I think tennis has been a massive help on my cricket from a mental side of mental fortitude sort of side. But yeah, I think I love the team aspect of cricket, and that was my decision making for me when I was 18.
That's an interesting point you bring up, that tennis, the mental fortitude. That's actually a good word. I haven't really uh, called it that before, but um, of tennis, and then because you do almost have the similar kind of individual, like when you're batting, it's like just you, and then when you're bowling, it's you against the batter. So there is kind of similarities between the two, in that they do kind of help each other. It's interesting. Have you? I'm not sure if you might have known you about this, but there's a on Netflix. There's like a little short kind of documentary on Andy Roddick, in the tennis, like when he was growing up in tennis, and there was another. I can't remember the other guy's name, but they
Marty
were.
Fish.
Yes, that was him. Yeah, that's him.
Yeah,
Did you watch that?
it's on Marty Fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah, so whoever
Um,
hasn't whoever's listening hasn't watched it, go watch it, because it talks about how much pressure they were on as tennis players from such a young age, and kind of the development as they went through the rankings, and how much pressure I guess they were under from a like a national point of view, and how it kind of breaks you, and that if you let it get to you, it kind of breaks you, doesn't it? Wild.
Yeah, 100%. And then that was, I think my brother and my parents, or my younger brother, he went and pursued tennis. So there was always that massive love for the game. But yeah, watching him play, and you sort of sit in the stands feeling helpless and wanting to
Mm.
be there for him. And that's why I love playing doubles as well at all tournaments. And at least you've got another person there to try and work things through, argue with, succeed with. We saw Kyrgios and Kokonakis at the recent Aussie Open having a lot of fun together, and it's just it's a really tough environment. The training environment is brutal as well, and it's tough to crack into from a financial standpoint as
Oh
well. Like
yeah.
I watched my brother really struggle for a couple of years, got to sort of 700 and had his career cut short by COVID. Um,
Mm.
but it's a bloody tough sport.
And even yeah, I think you said physically as well in the tournament setting, you have to back up every second day. You have to play as well, so that would be especially if you have a grueling match. Or I guess matches can go up to 3 to 5 hours. So
Yeah,
and backing those up after a day, you got to make sure you're hydrated and sleep. And yeah, sleep cycle goes, and yep, once that kind of goes up shit creek, it's all your body starts to go, and then mentally, it's no good as well. Hard.
yeah, exactly.
So you went to University of Australia. What did you study?
I studied Bachelor of Business,
Yep.
majored in accounting and finance initially. And then I went to a couple of lectures and I was like, "Oh, I'm really struggling with this double sort of majors." And then I went and saw like a consultant or advisor, university advisor, and just said, "Look, these are my interests. Cricket's obviously a big thing in my life. I love working with people and teams." She said, "Right, let's change you. Let's keep one of them and change the other." And so I changed
Mhm.
to management consulting and human resource management, two sub majors instead of finance.
Okay.
Um, so that was far more enjoyable. I did 2 years full time, but obviously for changing, I think it would have, if I carried on with full time, I would have been done in 3.5, 4 years.
Yep.
But I had to go to part time uni and defer a couple of semesters for cricket. So I got my 3 year degree done in 6 and a bit years. Did an internship at
That's right.
Deloitte in management consulting. So that was again something that I really loved, and my role was basically I was in human capital consulting. So I'd go out to businesses and we were consulting them on their people and trying to work, basically trying to smooth out their processes to make it more effective and efficient. And um, it was a really interesting couple of months that I really enjoyed, but it probably motivated me more to train harder and push harder at my cricket as well, because I wasn't quite ready for the 9 to 5 grind, throwing on a suit every morning, and I still wanted to be
Yeah.
outdoors training and pushing hard to chase my dreams on the cricket field.
So during that time, where were you in your cricket?
I was nowhere. I was just
Yeah. Right.
playing club cricket, training what I thought would, get me there. And it wasn't until I was about 20 that year that I did my internship at Deloitte. And then that winter, I got a last minute opportunity to go over and play club cricket in the UK, just organised through my
Okay.
club. Last game of the season here, we played in a 1 day final and we won it. And I did really well, got 50 not out in little time and took 5 wickets. So I got man of the match. Didn't really think much about it. Flew over to England, started playing club cricket, and towards the back end of my time there, got a call, 2 phone calls, one from the New South Wales selector saying, "Can you come back early? We've got a training camp in Brisbane that we'd love you to be at for preseason because Nathan Lyon, Steve O'Keefe on Australian duties, and we've got a gap basically in spinners." I was like, "Absolutely, I'll fly out as
Oh,
soon as
wow.
I can." And then the next phone call, I can't even remember the timeline of it, whether it was the same day, a couple of days, was from the Thunder general manager saying that I've secured their last spot
Oh, wow.
on their contracting list for the Big Bash. And I was like, "Nah, there's no way. This is a prank call." So I stayed on it for a bit longer, and yeah, it was true. So I flew back, went up to play to train and play with New South Wales. They threw me in the deep end and played me in a trial game against Western Australia, and I took 3 wickets.
Oh,
Came back to Sydney and found myself going back up to Brisbane, picked in their 1 day team to make my debut in professional cricket, and
Jeez.
it was just this whirlwind of events. All of a sudden, I was training in a professional environment, and I was like, "Whoa, okay, what I was doing by myself or thought I was doing at club cricket, there's a big gap, and I need
Yeah.
to change what I'm doing." After playing, I did quite well. I was very happy with how I performed. Initially in those games for New South Wales, and um, but I was like, right, I think things need to change. If I want more of this. I got the taste of it, but I want more. I want to succeed. I want to perform to the team. I want to be one of the best players in here. That those competitive juices started coming out again, and that's where I guess my um, desire to continue to get better each and every day started building, and I completely restructured my training program. That's not been the first time I've done it. It's changed a hell of a lot since, and um, so that was really the first my first taste of professional cricket, and then that led into the Big Bash that season, or later that season over the Christmas period as well.
Mm. So, how long was that period? So, when you went over to the UK, how long was it? You were there for 6 months? Okay,
No,
maybe
I
three,
was
maybe
there
3 months.
for I would have been there for maybe three and a bit months. Excuse me. I think I left maybe 3 or 4 weeks before I should have. So I felt like it was August when I got home, and then we went up to Brisbane for that preseason camp,
Mm.
um, and then it would have been around September October time by the time I made my debut for New South Wales.
So, how long? So, that preseason camp, is it an intensive kind of block period? So, maybe 2 to 3 weeks, and it's every day, 2 days? What are we
I
kind of
think it
talking?
was. I've been on a few since. I reckon it's sort of 10 days, and you get 1 or 2 days off in that period, and
Yeah.
it's just um, training, practice games.
Yeah.
Because of everyone usually goes north for cricket in that time
Yep.
because of weather and
Mhm.
facilities. So it was you sort of get 1 or 2 days off in a 10-day period probably, and it's you do a lot of cricket training, a bit of running, and gym sort of every second day, or depending on when practice games are, it's sort of based around that. So it's great fun. Since then, it's moved to Maroochydore a couple of times. So you're staying on the beach, you wake up, go for a swim, go train all day, or play a game, come back, have a swim, crash out. On a day off, you go find a nice golf course somewhere, or just chill on the beach, depending on what you want to do. So preseason camps are great fun,
Yeah.
for a week or 10 days or 2 weeks, depending on the climate and what the plan is.
Since that was your first one, I can imagine that you were kind of uh, seeing where you were ranked, I guess, in terms of how good you were, but also training standards, and you were kind of seeing who the kind of the best guys were and what they were doing, and comparing yourself to that. Was there what kind of point in that camp did you catch yourself realizing that, and is that when you realized that you got to start taking the next step?
I think it was. I mean, you sort of. I did. They just gave me like a blank gym program for that period, and it was when I got back to Sydney and we started doing all the testing,
Hmm.
post like pre-season, or I was catching up on the testing. They'd already done it because they would have started doing their pre-season while I was in the UK.
Yep.
Um, Eating pizzas and drinking beer, and not thinking about being a professional cricketer in that period. But yeah, it was when I started getting tested, and running is something I always did, and I still enjoy running. I knew I had to get fitter, and to want to chase down times and get under certain times. I think we had to do a 2K time trial in under 7 minutes 30. My first one, I started out real fast, and then the wind just got kicked out of me, and I missed that number, and I was like, right, okay, this needs to change, and since then I'm around the 7 minute mark, so I don't want to get anywhere near 7:30, and yeah, it was more in the gym, seeing where my body faults were with the physio from a flexibility standpoint, from a weakness standpoint, um, and knowing that that was going to make me susceptible to injury as well. So that was probably the biggest difference I started making, and continue to make, being a little bit OCD about not wanting to get injured or doing everything I can with my body to ensure that I can stay on the field. And touch wood, I've never had a major injury. Yes, I'm a spin bowler, but we still go through different things, and I've never had a major injury that's forced me out of the game for periods of time. So I think that was the moment coming back to Sydney, doing the testing, and seeing where I was at the back of the pack with the guys, sort of in fat camp as they called it, and I quickly wanted to progress out of there and chase down the top runners, the top guys in the gym, and not be sort of left straggling behind, and kicking the can a bit.
Mm. You were saying though your performances in that one day, the 1 day matches you had, you thought you did well. Was that seen the same as, guess the coaches and the selectors? I guess is that who reviews the your performance?
Yeah, it was funny. I never, and in cricket, you never really get a review,
Mm,
and it's probably something we're lacking, or because I was on the outer, it was never like a performance review. It was a bit more old school. I mean, that was 2014, so it was still a little bit old school. And like, yeah, thanks, mate. Well played. We'll
mm,
see you around.
interesting.
um, keep going, sort of thing. So it wasn't like, oh, you did well. We're keen to have you around. This is what you need to improve on, or this is what you need to do. I got the support in the coming years, to then go up to sort of spin camps in Brisbane, spend time working on my game up there for a full focus on spin bowling. You're still batting up there as well, but you go up with all the other spinners around the country, and sort of see where you're at in the pecking order, but also continue to learn your craft, and make it more specialized, and pick up a few things to make it as well.
Interesting. So those spin camps, is that spinners from across the country? So guys from SA were there as well.
Yeah, yeah, they're brilliant. I love them. So I think the last one I went on was uh, probably 2019. Um, and there were guys. It was mainly sort of the younger guys, but everyone that's sort of around and available, that goes up, that gets sent up by their state organization to go up. So we had everyone from around the country, which was brilliant. You're just there training for a 3 or 4 week block, or you could go up for 1 week. So I was there for 3 of the 4 weeks. Went up for a week, flew back, and then went back up for the last 2 weeks.
I guess there's something there when you're surrounded by like-minded guys as well. You can bounce. I don't. Were you in constant communication? Like you were bouncing ideas off of each other. Is that the case? I
Yeah,
guess?
and that's the beauty of it, to sort of see everyone naturally within our game, and within everything. Everyone does things differently, so it was good to pick up, um, and see how other guys approach it, where there's similarities in how we feel under pressure, how we react to certain situations, when in game like scenarios as
Mm,
well, and then also how guys sort of see it. With Oh, sorry, my phone is ringing, and I'll decline it.
that's all right.
That took us off screen. I Yeah, how guys sort of approach different situations, and there's a couple of off spinners up there as well, which is obviously my craft. But there's
Yep.
left arm orthodox bowlers, there's leg spinners. So everyone's very very different, but it's kind of cool seeing it all come together. And you train for hours, bowl a lot of balls a day. Your fingers get sore and cut up, but yeah, it's pretty cool, and builds. When I've gone up, it's built a really good base for my season and my year ahead, to have that long block under my belt of bowling and technical work.
Yeah, I can imagine that's probably the biggest one of the biggest components of that is the technical component because you get that coaching and I guess there's video and all that sort of stuff you get to look at as well. How was the your first season in the Big Bash? So obviously you came off. Did you play any games or were you just there as a I don't know, fill the role? It
I
was
thought it
always
was exactly
curious.
that. I was the last spot, so didn't expect to play. The Thunder didn't do well that year, and it got to the last game, and we were training at the SCG due to play the Sixers. How it usually works for the Big Bash day before every game, you train at the venue, whether you're playing the MCG or training the MCG. So you're interstate. But we were at home training at the SCG the day before, and I was bowling, and the coach pulled me aside over to where Mike Hussey was unpadding after his net, and he said, "Greeny, you're in tomorrow night. We're going to play you over Nathan Horrocks." I went, "What?
Oh, what?
Why? Nathan Horrocks is like good. You're picking me over Nathan Horrocks. Why? Like, I'd watch Horrocks bowl for Australia in all formats, and to win a World Cup, and I'd watched him bowl well all tournament as well. I thought this doesn't seem right, but yeah, so I think they just wanted to sort of see where I was at, test me, and another one of the young guys who hadn't played as well got thrown in, and um, I bowled well that night. I was 4 overs, none for 14, and found myself with another contract for the next year. So I played one game. We lost a seemingly unlosable game,
Yeah.
but loved my time. I was just in awe of the moment, debuting at the SCG in front of 20 plus thousand, all my friends and family there. Yes, it was a really, really cool experience, and playing alongside my cricketing hero as well, which was in Jack Callis. So that was
Yeah.
um, something super surreal.
I was just about to ask that. Was that, yeah, if that was the season that Jack Harless played, but there were some, I guess, in the early years of the Big Bash, there were big names in those sides. Like you had Chris Gale was there. You had a lot of guys from the West Indies, like Pollard. So what's that? What was that like? I know probably you only played one game, but being around big names like that, did that kind of the aura and how they trained, did it rub off on you? Did it rub off on the other players in the team?
Yeah, the first, I think, look, firstly, definitely those guys are massive for the tournament, and rubbing shoulders with them, and just being in awe of their achievements, their experience, and watching them go about their business in the nets is huge, huge, and has been massive help in helping me grow my game. But yeah, that first year where I only played one game and Jack Callis was our overseas, it was really, really daunting. I sat on the couch as a kid with my dad when I first started picking up a cricket bat, and he was like, "If you're going to play this game, you need to watch this guy." And it was Jacques Callis. So I started idolizing him
Oh, wow.
as a youngster, and fast forward to when I was 20, and I'm playing alongside him, or 2021, I think I was 21 years old, yeah. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting in a change room next to him, going to training, going to social events. Like he sends me a message, or we're sending messages in the group, and I'm like,
Yeah.
this is not real. So I was too scared to talk to him that whole year. Um, I was in just stuck in awe of him, and it was huge. So luckily, I signed a contract the next year. Luckily, the Thunder brought Jacques Callis back the next year, and that next season, I ended up playing every game, and we went on to win the tournament. So I won the Big Bash alongside my idol.
Oh, wow.
Fortunately, the coach kind of came back. That he was also back that season as well, the coach, and he got wind that I was a bit in awe of him, and he helped break the ice a little
Oh,
bit,
wow.
and we formed a relationship. I got the courage to talk to him a bit more, and yeah, had a lot of fun with him on and off the field, and it's pretty special to think that, and it's hard to go past a better moment in my career to for that season to win a tournament alongside my cricketing hero, and you throw in Shane Watson and Mike Hussey, and just to add a little taster on the side, and it's pretty cool.
Wow, that's awesome. So obviously that first season wasn't so well, and then that second season you ended up taking out the tournament. What do you think were the key differences and in that success of that second season compared to the first one?
Hmm. I'm trying to, yeah. I'd love to say it was because I played every game, but no, we had some good additions. We got Shane Watson and Farwood Ahmed. They came in into the team, so leg spinner, and obviously Shane Watson speaks for himself as
Mm.
with his all round capabilities. Um, I think we had perfect mix of experience and youth. The likes of Hussey, Watson, Callis, Kawaja, Clint Mackay, Farwood Ahmed, Chris Hartley, Aiden Blizzard, and then we had some wonder kid from the West Indies called Andre Russell come out and run completely hot with both bat and ball. He was bowling fast, smacking balls out of the park. I was just playing. I was playing fearless cricket myself as well, not really knowing much about anyone, not having anyone know much about me as well. So in that first sort of season or two, or your breakout year, you always can get away with it while you're running hot before teams sort of figure out what you're doing. And I loved it, playing at the top grounds in Australia in front of big crowds in the Big Bash. You're on TV on nights, and your friends are watching and sending you messages, and it's really really cool, and you start feeling upbeat, and again that hunger starts building inside you to just want more and more, and you want to get better and better, and continue to perform um, for the team, but also for yourself as well, because you get that, or certainly for me, you get that thirst for success. You get little tastes of it when you do well, and you want to start getting man of the match performances, and building your career, and start going higher and higher up the ladder.
And you probably at that stage you were seeing your hard work paying off.
Yeah, 100%. That was the cool thing. It just carried on building, and yeah, it was. You don't sort of think about it at the time, but reflecting upon it now, it's, as I said, you sort of feel really cool and humbled by it all, because there has been a lot of sacrifice along the way, and it goes back to the start of the conversation in my parents making the sacrifice to come over to Australia. If they didn't do that, I wouldn't be in that situation, or would I have been in that situation? Would I have been playing tennis instead? All the little pieces that fall into place, sacrifices made by them and me as well. So it's a great reward for a lot of things. And yeah, as I said, you just for me, I just got that hunger and desire for more and more. I wanted to continue to repay myself and others for the support they've thrown behind me, and I guess that's one of my key and big motivators as well. Still to this day, is continuing to want to repay the faith and support that I've got from me, my partner, my family, from fans and clubs as well. It's a big thing that motivates me as well.
Was there a key moment in that championship year where I guess maybe it was halfway through the season and you were kind of you were doing well, but there wasn't really Chatham out up amongst playing finals and going on to win it? Was there a point where you were kind of won a game, you're like, oh, we're in for a good chance to go all the way this year?
That year, funnily enough, no. In the recent years, there has been, but that year for me, whether it's because I was young and not involved in the sort of senior group or
Mhm.
whatever, but for that year, I remember we finished our last game against. It was a home game. Could have been against. I can't remember who it was, but we played in Sydney and we were sitting fourth, but there was still one game to go, and it was the Renegades against the Strikers, and we needed the Strikers to win for us to stay in. Otherwise, the Renegades would have taken our spot on fourth. So
Oh
the
wow.
Strikers, I think, finished first that year, and we were sitting fourth, and we're just having our end of season dinner and drinks at Bondi Icebergs. The game was on, and I remember we watched it, and the Strikers got a decent score, but the Renegades had Chris Gale playing for them, and we remember sitting there. We just watched him go off. I think he hit one over for 28. We sort of started saying our goodbyes. Had people started having a few extra beers because they're like, oh, "Okay, lads, it's the dream's over." Unfortunately, we missed out. And he started going nuts. And then the next bowler came on, Gale smacked him. the next bowler came on, Gale smacked him, and then enter Travis Head. I think Travis Head must have bowled the fifth or sixth over. He wasn't really known for his bowling that season much, and still probably isn't. His bowling, he bowls well, but he doesn't bowl much in matches. And got Gale out first ball. Bravo came in, got Bravo out, and we were like, oh, okay, we're on here. All of a sudden, all the beers went down. We trained the next day because the Renegades lost and the Strikers got through. So we found ourselves training the next day, and then after that, we're on a flight to Adelaide Oval to play the Strikers in the semi, and it became the Usman Khawaja show.
Wow.
He got 100 that day. We smashed the Strikers, and then we flew on to Melbourne. So I just think we timed our run. A little bit of luck fell into place. We won our last couple of games in the round season, and there's a big talk in all sport, but particularly in cricket, about having momentum. And that was in our favour. We were playing good cricket. We were winning games of cricket towards the back end. We won that semi-final, and we came into the final against the Melbourne Stars in a really good place.
Oh, 100%. That momentum thing is one that I've experienced myself from a coaching perspective in a team that I work for in South Australia. We had the same kind of situation. We started the year really well. Middle of the year, we kind of dropped off a little bit. And then towards the back end, we won the last couple of games at the back end, ended up qualifying so it was top five. We finished fifth. And then from the fifth, we had to win every game to make the grand final, which we did, and then ended up winning the grand final. So I
Yeah,
attest to
huge.
whether it's positive or negative momentum is one thing that will carry you through. So yeah, I guess from
Yeah,
your perspective,
it's
it's the
huge.
same.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's just you get the confidence. You can sort of it's not really spoken about. I guess it's just that um, it's like a feeling or a group feeling, which is pretty powerful. That you can just rock up, and it's the expectation that you're going to win, rather than thinking, "Oh God, I hope we win." So
Mm,
that's what I believe momentum does for collective groups is, or when you have that positive output. We don't have any control over results in any way, but if you rock up with that positive output and mindset and belief, then you're giving yourself every chance rather than hitting and hoping.
mm, that's definitely true. So so as well, you've I guess I can name a country outside of Australia, and you've probably played in that country. There's a long list. I was reading it before. Tell us about I don't know your other and like playing in other teams across the country. So T20 in India, and I guess as well. Where else have you played?
Yeah, fast forward probably 2 years after we won the Big Bash, I got and up. Our coach of the Thunder was coaching a team in Pakistan in the PSL, which was based in the UAE then, because there was still no cricket in Pakistan at that period. And he rang me and he said, "I want you to come out and be an overseas player in my team in Pakistan." And I was like, "What? There's cricket overseas in these tournaments that you mean I can continue doing this Big Bash thing everywhere else?" He's like, "Yeah." And again, another pinch myself moment. I rocked up, knowing that Shane Watson was in the tournament. He said, "Come down for breakfast." Went down for breakfast, and he was sitting there, and him and Kevin Peterson called me over
Oh well.
to sit at their table, and I'd obviously played against Kevin, met him, or just said hello again, and then all of a sudden, our table got quite full, and I found myself sitting around and looking. I was like, "Well, that's Kumar Sangakkara, that's Mahela Jayawardene, that's Kevin Peterson, that's Shane Watson, and then there's me." I'm like, "That's not right." Then Brendan McCullum came and sat down. He was the captain of our team in the Pakistan League, and I was like, "Nah." I went back up to my room after breakfast, got straight on the phone to mum and dad. I was like, I got dropped off in the wrong place. My flights dropped me here. I just had breakfast with these guys that I've idolized, watched playing the game so well, and now they're talking about things with me and like I'm one of their peers. I was like, no, this is wrong. This can't be right. So it was a incredible first taste of it. It took me, overseas, and then from there again, that that hunger and desire to get better and want more, and make it back to that league, make it to other leagues around the world as well, and come back to the Big Bash, perform, and all of a sudden these opportunities again overseas started popping up. Went back to Pakistan, or the league for a different team, and we actually went to Pakistan. For the first time, in a crazy experience. I then went on to play cricket in Canada,
Wow.
cricket in the Caribbean. Obviously, I've been to England, for club cricket. I got county cricket deals there.
Yep.
Um, I've been to Norway for a weekend. There was a cricket tournament in Norway while I was in the UK
The
for a
weekend.
weekend. So went to Oslo for a short tournament. Um, the UAE, Caribbean, I said.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, well, fortunately, my dream came through true to play in the IPL. Um, but unfortunately, because of COVID, that wasn't in the madness and passion of India. It was in the UAE with no
Oh,
crowds. So that's one thing that again I've got the burning desire to push hard and try and
sucks.
experience that craziness and madness that we see sort of from afar. But it's talking to the players about it. It's just so hard to describe. And for me, I love the passion for the game, and I saw it firsthand when we went to Pakistan for the first time, and cricket started coming back, and how grateful they were and how loud it was.
Mm.
Um, and to experience that in India as well would be really, really cool. So, yeah, it's been some incredible opportunities to go and play the game I love, around the world, and see how going back to our spin bowling conversation, is it's the same game played differently by a lot of different cultures and countries. So to pick little things up along the way and try and add them into my game or translate them to my game, at different stages, and continue to try and fast track my development, ahead of time as well, has been a huge help.
Mm. Take us back to the you playing over in Canada. It's obviously not known for its cricket. So, what was that kind of experience like? Did you go? Were you in there as like the big fish, I guess, so to speak? Like, were you the Jacques Callis of coming over to play in the Big Bash over in?
Definitely not. That the big fish was in my team. It was Yuvraj Singh.
Oh wow!
So he was our captain. Brendan McCullum was in the team again. Had Moses Enriques.
Oh yeah,
So there was some big names in our team. A lot of West Indians in the other team. Russell, Gale, Bravo, Pollard was in our team as
oh
well.
yeah.
So I certainly was the small fish, and I'm very happy to remain the small fish, um, in a very big pond. But yeah, Canada. Canada for me was always a place that I'd always wanted to go to, but I felt like it was the place I would never get to.
Mm,
So it was really, really cool being in Toronto or just outside of Toronto. You get in an Uber into the city in 40 minutes, and go and experience the city and Canada as much as you could. And then, you go out in the afternoon and play a game of cricket, back near the hotel, and go out for dinner back in town that night. So it was a really cool experience. The wicket or the ground was tiny.
mm,
It was about just being a very defensive bowler, and there were some really passionate fans. Obviously, because we had Yuvraj, it brought in a lot of the Indian expats in Canada as well, and their whole cricketing sort of system and culture is based around their multicultural background, that they have. So there's a lot of
mm.
um, people from the West Indies, a lot from India, Pakistan, and various other countries residing in Canada, and that makes up their national side, and also their local cricketers. So there's yeah, really, really good cricketers coming through, and passionate fans there as well.
You made an interesting point just before how you were saying the grounds were so much smaller. That makes you more of a defensive bowler. So, kind of break that down a little bit. Is it when you go into bowl? Is there a plan that you need? obviously you want to attack and get wickets, but also be defensive and not leak runs. So what's the kind of process when you go over and you see, a ground and it's bigger? Do you go, okay, I'm going to be more attacking and go for wickets? How does that kind of look?
It's sort of all the. I think you got to weigh up all the conditions. For me, I look at is the pitch conducive to spin as well. I'm not a massive turner of the ball, and in Australia the ball doesn't spin much anyway. It's all about bounce, and for me being 6'4", bounce comes into play, and using my height. So yeah, I weigh up all conditions, boundary size, game situation, wicket, and then also the batter you're bowling to. So is it the right matchup for me to be aggressive and try and bowl a little bit slow, or bowl a bit of more aggressive, or try and spin the ball, or actually should I just try and get this guy off strike, and bowl a ball that is a better chance of going for one run. And if they miss time and it goes for no runs, and then you sort of, then the next ball it's like a game of chess. You try and get them off strike again, rather than trying to take wickets, out and out wickets, and being a bit more aggressive, but opening yourself up to more hurt. Or do you go, and it's probably a role that I typically play myself, is try and be more defensive and not go for those out and out wickets, but by building pressure and starving them of boundaries, I create wicket taking opportunities either at my end or for someone else as well.
Mm. Is that a conversation that happens between you, the captain, and the bowling coach before? Like, you look at the players in the team and you kind of look at which ones, like you say, there's a lot of different aspects, like game, scenario of the game, where you are, and in the over. So I guess, is it more of a conversation between you and the captain that you have?
Yeah, sometimes those conversations in the moment, based on game situation, that the certainly captains I've played, good captains I've played under, they're sort of thinking, look, what they come with questions to you is, what do you want to do right now? And often, if I'm clear, I'll say, and they agree. And sometimes they go, you know what, actually, we want to bring an extra fielder in, or let's try and keep this guy on strike a bit longer. And that gives you more clarity on what they're thinking in the moment. And then, pre-game, we have planning, and go through players' stats and strengths and weaknesses to different balls, different bowlers, different lengths and lines to bowl as well. So you do all your homework before, and then in the moment, it's about applying, I guess, your expertise and skills against theirs, and trying to come out on top, and out thinking and outsmarting them as well.
Mm. Was there a moment when, I guess, you've traveled everywhere, but not everywhere, but you've traveled to many countries and you've played lots of cricket around the world. Was there a moment where you kind of was standing, I guess, out in the field where you were bowling and you're like, "Gosh, I'm bowling here. Like, why? Like, how did I get here?"
There's been a few. I think MCG,
Yeah.
it typically happens to me playing there. To me, MCG, when I was a kid playing tennis and cricket, I dreamt of playing cricket at the MCG in Lords, and then tennis at Wimbledon. So, MCG and Lords were like the pinnacle of cricket for me, whether it be playing for Australia, or playing T20 cricket there, or one day cricket there, or whatever. It was just, I want to play cricket at these places. So, um, you know, without going back to that final too often, it's we won the final at the MCG in front of 50 odd thousand people, which is not a packed out stadium by any means, but
Still a
it's
lot.
loud and busy enough. And standing at the top of your mark about to bowl to Kevin Peterson, that sense of awe doesn't really hit you there. But when you're standing on the boundary and you've got a few seconds to switch off and enjoy the moment, that was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And then um, more recently, it was last year, I got signed by Middlesex to go and play county cricket for them. And of course, Middlesex's home ground is Lords. So the first game I played that season was against Surrey at Lords. All my mum's family came out, and training the day before, or a couple of days earlier in the lead up, we were training every day at Lords. They put me up in a house nearby, and I was driving into Lords. I said, "Welcome, Mr. Green. You go and park there." And I was walking around the ground, people saying hello to you because you've got your Middlesex gear on, and that's just your home base for the couple of weeks. And I was like, this is bloody cool. and I could walk into. I was 2 k's away from the ground, and London traffic often didn't promote driving in, so I was walking into training at Lords with my backpack on, and it was just that was the moment. I think probably the biggest moment there in the lead up, and then in the game, just standing in the field, looking around where I was, staring at the history of the game at the
Mm.
pavilion as well in front of me. There were a couple of moments where I had to catch myself, go, all right, switch back on, concentrate now. The ball could come to you. You need to be ready.
Yeah.
So that's probably because I was more experienced, and aware of it, and wanted to be aware of it, because it's about being in the moment as well. I think that was the biggest time ever that I've been like, wow,
Yeah.
this is cool. And standing there going, you sort of have that out of body
Mm.
experience.
Did the ground feel different? Like, could you tell, like, this history here?
The first thing I did have to do on one of the training days was walk across the outfield in bare feet, because it's
Yeah.
just so lush.
Yeah.
So it was just such a pristine outfield. There wasn't a blade of grass out of place. Um, but yeah, and then you're sitting in the change rooms, you see all the honor boards that are up from test matches, there for home and away, and obviously knowing the history of the ground as well, and it's a very prestigious county, so you sort of get inducted into it. So it was really really special and really cool to be a part of.
So you've played now for a number of years. How has kind of your preparation from a, I guess, a nutritional perspective, how has that changed and what does it look like now these days?
Yeah, it's been a nutrition's an interesting journey for me, if you like. It started out with a big shock to the system, as we spoke about when I first debuted, and I came from pretty, as everyone does when they go to Europe for a sort of holiday, but I was there for cricket and holiday. I traveled a bit as well. You sort of get that little bit of holiday injection in your belly. So you're not putting great things into it. So actually spending time with a nutritionist, getting skin folds done for the first time, you're like, oh, okay. So I started with a quite strict thing, and found that it didn't really last or work for me. And as I've found out more about what works for me in terms of a plan, it's just about eating. For me, I have to eat more, because I'm on the go constantly. I have to force myself. I don't get hungry. I don't like training like on a full belly. So if I'm waking up early, I'm not hungry straight away. So that's where I sort of have to force myself to eat sometimes before training, and getting more awareness about the difference in my training and recovery when I do and don't eat as well. I invested a year and a half ago, or yeah, nearly 2 years ago now. I got my Whoop,
Oh, nice.
and knowing more about my sleep. Oh, there you go. I know more about my sleep, recovery, and everything. So it's been a big change, and now I simply just go, well, I eat what I want really, and it's just about moderations. And same with alcohol. Is like, I just think about training or my week or what I've got on tomorrow, and I find being a little bit more relaxed about it, I'm in a better place. I'm in arguably the best shape I've been in the last 2 years following this, and um, yeah, I think it's a lot easier for me to follow and keep to when I'm not really following a structured program, if you like, but
Yes.
I've got a lot more awareness about what I'm doing tomorrow or what I'm doing today, and what I need to sort of take in, or don't take in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that definitely comes with a experience as well. So I guess many years, I guess you'd have learned under, I don't know, different nutritionists with coaches and or in teams that you've played with that you'd have picked up a few things. And now using the Whoop, you can be a bit more, I guess, informed of what you need to do during the day. And I guess you use the activity function for your training, so you see how hard you work and against the recovery score that you get as well. So you can kind of tell if you need to invest a bit more time into your recovery, or maybe if you use a journaling function you might realize that you know doing what's one of the functions, like having alcohol that day always makes my recovery the next day go to shit. And like,
Yeah.
I have the ice bar function. I do my saunas for my recovery as well. So what do you kind of use for recovery? What kind of recovery processes do you go through that you
Yeah.
see
So
make a difference?
I think like for me in my training weeks, I sort of double up. I've got Apple Watch and Whoop. So and that's the big thing for my eating. And obviously because this one doesn't do time for running as well, or my running
Yeah.
activities, or so I sort of match them both up and sort of see how hard I'm working in a day. And it sort of gives you that update on, um, calories or energy burnt, and know, okay, well, I've done a massive session this morning. I need to eat. I need to force myself to eat because I know I've got, training later or something. And then I need to, go and spend time in the ocean, full body in winter, and or go and seek out. I've just become an ambassador at this cryotherapy place. So I need to go seek them out and do a session there, or
Oh, cool.
I try and get a massage in once or twice a fortnight as well. So when I'm really sore
Mm.
or struggling, it's just about going and seeking out those measures where, for me, it's hitting the reset button, um, and feeling as if I'm putting things into place that allows me to either train harder, recover faster, or be in a better place should there be a game coming up as well. And I believe a lot of it is mental. If you like believe that you're doing a recovery method, if you like, then it's going to like sort of work in your favor with your body. It obviously does help your body, but for me, I think there's a big placebo effect of having a good
Oh,
sleep
yeah.
or getting in an ice bath or getting a massage. You come out feeling really good. You have, whether it's endorphins or whatever, and then knowing that your body's sort of recovering in the background. That's, yeah, something that I find massive in my training and recovery regime.
You're saying that you have to almost force yourself to eat food. Do you sometimes go down the protein shake route, or do you use supplements to kind of help? And what kind of supplements do you use?
Yeah, particularly when on the go, I found that protein shakes have been a big help for me, or even like little bars that were allowed. For I only
Yeah.
use WPI protein. Um, Definitely the double chocolate flavor is my favorite. But yeah, it's just something that's been great for on the go, whether it just be driving from a gym session to a batting or bowling session, or squeezing something in quickly, knowing that I just get a hit of something to help fuel my body, in
Mhm.
between a moment where I can actually sit down and eat something more substantial. So that's, in the last 2 years, been something that I use a lot more in my day to day training to ensure that I'm getting the right intake and the right fuel into my body, because I wasn't doing that in the past. And I'd often go, wake up, drive an hour to get to training, train there for 3 or 4 hours, and then have to drive 40 minutes somewhere else and maybe do a gym session, and then drive home for 40 minutes to an hour. And then I would eat for the first time that day. And it's like, well, you've just done all of this on empty. You've eaten now. And then I'd find myself absolutely ravenous at dinner as well, wanting to just continue eating and eating and eating. And I was sleeping in the middle of the day, being absolutely fatigued. So
Oh,
it
wow.
just built up. And now I find myself training with more energy. And it wasn't a fear of eating or from trying to lose weight or anything. It was just purely not feeling like training on a full stomach, not wanting to eat in the car, and just being stubborn and unaware of what I was actually doing to myself. And that's why I say it. Sometimes I have to force myself to eat because I know that I'm not going to be able to get something in for a while, and I need something before I train.
Yeah. It's interesting because I've had one or two. I had a triathlete, and then I had a ultra marathon runner on the podcast, and they're really interesting to talk to about how they eat around their running, because obviously they have to train so much, and then that it's hard for them to kind of consume all the food they have to, and try to have that feeling of training not on a full stomach. So they actually train their stomachs that they can empty it faster. So they actually have eat like small amounts of food and train at the same time. That trains their stomach to empty empty the stomach faster so they can, run not on an empty stomach, if that makes sense. So it's
Yeah,
interesting.
right.
It's crazy the differences in those guys because your ultra marathon runners are running anywhere up to 50 Ks to 128 Ks to 200 Ks, and it's those really big races they have to consume while they run, or they have to stop and
Yeah.
cook, like, or stop and eat a sandwich or something while they go. So it's kind of wild. And also hydration is obviously a big component of cricket. Is there any guidance? Like, I don't know, do you get guidance from the nutritionist on how to hydrate, or do you just kind of get given a Gatorade sachet and put it in your water and hope for the best?
During games, we sort of get hydrolyte sometimes, or often there's hydrolyte or shots, because it
Okay,
is from the heat factor and sweat factor. Something I
of
was
course.
really unaware of. I always, it's going to sound bad, but training in tennis and whatever from a toughness point of view is always like what from the movies. Water's from the weak. Water's for the weak. You got to earn your water. Um, so it's from that perspective. Often during training, I wouldn't be drinking much. Again, you don't really want to feel like you've got a lot of water sitting in your stomach while you're playing tennis or whatever. But then, in that same year, I debuted for New South Wales. The nutritionist came down to do like a sweat experiment, and we did weigh in, weigh out before and after training. And I'm a big sweater, without going into the juicy details too much of it. And my weight was significantly lower after training. And basically, I saw firsthand what that is, and how much water I was actually losing, and how much hydration I need. And I'm outside of training and games, I'm someone who's always drinking water. I love my girlfriend will attest to that. We go out to dinner, and they sort of top up your glass. And I just say, just leave the bottle. And I drink through
Yeah.
two or three big bottles at dinner, and I'm drinking probably liters of the stuff every day just because I know I need it and I love it. But yeah, I think hydration. Um, there's been moments where I've been struggling and feeling dehydrated overseas, and knowing that I've got hydrolyte sitting in my bag, I'm like, what are you doing? You need to have it on the field with you or nearby. And I've made poor mistakes like that, because in a different professional setup, you do have to fend for yourself at times, and use
Hmm.
your experience, and bring that in on the individual side. You can't really have someone hold your hand, and lead you. You've got to do it yourself. So yeah, if you make the mistake, it's not the end of the world, but it starts playing on your mind a bit as well.
Yeah. And also like the whole when you start cramping and when you start cramping, that's almost the last kind of indicator that you're dehydrated and you need those electrolytes. Usually when you start to feel fatigued, it's usually your dehydration starts well before that. It's the electrolytes have a key function in the brain and in the working muscle. So if you're fatigued and you're not going to be able to perform at your best, so you might not be able to push hard to save the boundary and do you know make those last efforts to save some runs to help the team. I guess chase down the target or to save a few runs to save the game.
Yeah, exactly. I think like for me, it's just ensuring that those mental errors don't creep in, and I think fatigue is probably one of the biggest factors, and something that in a game, as I said, where we can't actually control results in sport, the stuff you do off the field in terms of nutrition, training, recovery are factors that you can control, and do affect performance. And for me, if I've got all my ducks in a row, then I know I'm giving myself every chance of being successful. And that's where I become quite OCD with it all, with my training, my recovery, or my weights program, and ensuring that I'm doing all my mobility, because I know the potential side of it, where I could either miss games, or not perform, or not be able to perform to my ability. So from a control perspective, that's something that I push myself hard on, um, all the time, and something I've failed at earlier in my career, and now, as I said, I'm becoming OCD about it. It's something that ticks my girlfriend off, but I don't know. It gives me my chance of continuing to chase my dreams as hard as I can.
Do you, like we said at the start of the podcast, you're talking about mental fortitude. What kind of work have you done in that space to kind of up the game a little bit?
Yeah, we have sports psychs involved at our professional bodies at New South Wales, which Thunder falls under New South Wales. And then last year, I actually went out and got my own one, a sports psych for the first time, and worked with him throughout the year. And it's just, I think the big thing is just bringing that awareness to the space. It's a lot of the stuff's very obvious, but it's just bringing you into a zone where you're comfortable in the moment. You can handle pressure. You can understand what's sort of happening in your environment, and develop. For me, it's developing catches where my mind starts wavering, whether it be starting to thinking about factors that are completely irrelevant, or overthinking the moment, or trying too hard, or wanting it too much, rather than just being completely in the zone and focused there. That's probably been the biggest help and influence that has helped me, because I'm someone who wants it so badly, and you start trying too hard and forcing things. And through the sessions that I've had, is putting in these little catches to realize I'm doing it, and then help me relax in the moment and breathe through it, and get back into that level state of play, if you like.
Mm. Does that come? Do you like practice that? Like not so much in training. Do you practice it through meditation?
Not meditation, but in training, I actually do practice it. And it's my biggest
Yeah.
thing is my breathing, and using my breath in training to relax
Mhm.
my body. As I said, OCD perfectionist trainer. So I, try and be completely perfect in training. And that's through these sessions, I've learned to use that as my stimulant for game pressure. So, me wanting to be a perfectionist
Right.
in training is similar to the pressures of a game that puts on. So, when I try and be a perfectionist in training, I use those moments for my mind to try and relax me, breathe through it. Relax my hand when I'm bowling, relax my hands when I'm batting, and relax my forearms as well, and be able to then clear my head and just watch the ball or deliver the ball I want to bowl. And similarly, that comes into the game when my mind starts taking me elsewhere, or thinking about what could happen or what has happened. It's like, all right, let's breathe through it, and focus on what I want to do right now in this moment for this ball.
Yeah, I bring up the meditation stuff because I've done a few of those guided ones through Headspace, and they all talk about, um, your mind's going to wander, and when you feel that your mind's wandering away from your body, bring it back, control your breathe, like get your rhythm back in the breathing. So that's kind of similar concepts, I guess. When you feel you start to tense up, or you're getting like you develop those catches. So when you start to realize, you just bring it back to relax the body, relax everything. So that's kind of the similar kind of same but different, I
Mm.
guess.
Yeah, yeah. I've been led through meditation before, and I've I've used it. If I'm honest, I've actually used it 3 or 4 times for helping me sleep. And
Yeah.
that's where, and I say help me sleep in the day, where I've woken up too early on a game day a couple of times, and I just start burning nervous energy from just sitting there around, and waiting to do nothing. So I use it to help me sleep for 30 minutes, an hour, or however long I'm able to get through. And I think that's where, or for me, certainly a couple of times, it's been a massive aid.
Obviously, from do you have any other resources on that mental aspect other than the psych? Do you listen to podcasts that you're going to get ideas from, or listen to other people's stories?
I think from from COVID, I started. We got a puppy who's cruising around here. He's now 1. He's a bit bigger, and during that time, I started going on long walks in the morning, during lockdown, the first
Yeah.
lockdown, if you like, and I'd throw on a podcast of, whether it be, it's just some sort of athlete based podcast or business based podcast, and start listening to things. And I think that was my version of meditation. And sometimes, I just go out with no phone or headphones and just the dog, and I walk around and just be in my head. And I've bumped into people I know and just completely glazed over because I'm in a different place. So I think that's my version. Going for a swim after. I love the ocean,
Yeah.
and using those reset buttons in that way to clear my head and either be with my thoughts or be completely empty as well, and not really overthinking it or forcing myself in any which way, just accepting the direction my mind takes me in for that hour, 40 minutes, or 2 hours if I lose track of time and get a bit sunburned and come back later.
Mhm. I guess as well, you playing all over the globe. You played everywhere. Do you taking those individual moments away from the cricket? Like I guess you get caught up in the aspect of playing the games, and you probably play, you know, probably a game every 5 or so days, and he's very busy with training, all that sort of stuff. Taking the time away, how much does that help in resetting the mind, the body to come back fresh when you do have to be busy?
Yeah, I think it like you feel, or for me, whenever I use the time off to reset or just not think about it, I try and switch off completely from cricket whenever I can, because either it forces me to start missing it and become more excited about when I am playing it because I do have it, or I feel like if I start overthinking or get stuck in that zone for a while, it just becomes all consuming, and you're constantly thinking about cricket, how you can improve, how you can get better, and there's no just let's push the noise aside and just be clear, and then you come back to it and realize the stuff that you were thinking about, worrying about, actually wasn't that big of a deal, and you come back in fresh, just focused on what's ahead of you that day. So I think that's the biggest impact of being able to switch off or reset and have a break from it for sometimes it's just an hour or it could be a day or two or whatever. But I think for me, that's the biggest impact that it has, because you can then come back and feel a lot, for lack of a better word, freer about what's ahead of you, as I said.
Mm. And also the time differences between, I guess if you have to play across different states, how do you kind of work that into the schedule? Do you have to make sure that you adjust time zones and you're sleeping at a time, and you try to make sure you get enough sleep so you're ready to go in the game? And then obviously you have to play games at different times. You have to make sure that you kind of keep the same preparation, so you work back hours. That makes sense.
Yeah, the hardest one. I've had a couple of hard ones, but the hardest one is always flying from Sydney or Brisbane to Perth,
Ah.
because you're waking up on. I try and sleep in as long as I can on game days to sort of, just so again I'm not hanging around waiting for the game that's at 7 o'clock at night. So you sort of I'm used to waking up
Yeah.
between 10 a.m. and midday, and then all of a sudden you get to Perth and you're crashing out at 9 or 10 o'clock at night because that's midnight or whatever on the eastern seaboard, and you're up at 6 a.m. at Sparrows, and you've got a game at 7 p.m. that night, and you're like, wow, this is not on. So that's where a couple of times you try and roll over, or you force yourself into meditation, or myself into meditation, to try and sleep a bit more, or you then go out and come back and try and sleep in the day, just to not be kicking around. But so that's always the biggest challenge. And then I guess you kind of get used to it as well. There's a couple of times where I've flown from here or elsewhere and landed and had to play a game either that day or the next day. When I was in Canada,
Oh wow.
I played someone, I tweeted me after, because I went straight from Canada to England, and I woke up the next day to a tweet, was I just played 2 games of cricket in less than 24 hours in 2 different countries.
Oh.
Um, yeah, so I finished playing in Canada, flew overnight, like straight from Canada to the
Yeah.
UK, played a game that afternoon in the UK, and obviously with time differences and whatever.
That's
Um,
wild.
and that was a weird experience because like the ground was moving. I didn't know where I was. I
Yeah,
felt
wow.
completely adrift. But I went to sleep that night at like 10:30, and I woke up the next day at 2 p.m. I was just completely zonked. So
Mm,
yeah, it's just trying to do what you can with time zones to the best of your ability. But sometimes, such as that circumstance, you just got to sort of get on with it, and the adrenaline and love, and you try and find things to pick your body up and trick you through it. Because I'm not a coffee drinker either, there's no way of getting that buzz there. So I try and just use adrenaline or something to get me through the 3 hour or 4 hour period of a cricket game.
mm. And I guess coffee is almost works against everything that you need to make sure that you're ready for in cricket. Because if you drink, like if you're a big coffee drinker, then you have to make sure you're even more hydrated than you already are, because coffee is a diuretic. So
Yeah,
you got to make sure that you're hydrated, not the other way around.
yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah. So thank you very much for coming on the podcast. If anyone wants to listen, Chris Green.
No.
I'm sorry, wants to follow you, Chris Green _93.
Yep,
Um,
that's me.
so yeah, I appreciate good all the best for your upcoming seasons ahead, mate.
Thank you.
I picked up a few good reminders for myself.
About nutrition and everything.
That's always happens. Even the same when I have these chats with other athletes as well. It's always like, I could be doing that better.
Yeah, correct.
All right. Thanks, mate. Appreciate your time.
Awesome. Ta.
Thanks everyone for listening as well.